How many? How many of you work in a clinic setting with um, coworkers or people that have communicated that I've taught them in the past? Anybody work with any of my former students? Please don't tell them that I've slacked off in my. Don't tell them that I've gotten soft. They would back in my day throw it against you. All right, guys, it's in your first rodeo, so I'm going to give a general overall view of what you're going to be accountable for, and then we're going to open it up to specific questions. Remember, I can't answer, will I ask? All I can clarify is, can I ask it? I haven't written the test yet, so I can ask it or not, but fair questions are, can I ask this, or can I ask that, or is it fair game? Is this information fair to ask? See the difference between, okay? So there's no way in the world I'm asking 33 questions about 4 muscles of your neck. Communicated that at the beginning of the semester. So this first test is like a 310 review. I'm not talking about specific weird motions, major motions, but mostly motions and muscles and contractions. So although I don't expect you to know all the muscles of the subtalar joint, we spent 2 weeks saying if I have a TheraBand trying to evert me, I need inverters. And if I see inversion, inverters through concentric contraction. That makes sense? That's fair game. Gravity's trying to adduct me. So I need my abductors. If I observe adduction, abductors allow that adduction through eccentrics. That's fair game. I'm not going to ask you to know specific muscles yet, but we should at least be able to understand agonistic groups influence joint motions through specific contractions. That's fair game. Cool. And then the application of our first set of muscles for the cervical. I picked the cervical on purpose. It's not too many because we're just learning these concepts, and it covers all 3 planes. Got it started at the subtalar joint, ankle joint, knee joint. I wanted something that would cover all the different bases, not have too many, but yet still do sagittal, frontal, and transverse. Then we introduced the concept of levers. And I said, hey guys, for this first test, let's specifically target how the cervical works as first, the balance, redirection of forces. So it's not a lot of stuff, but we just have to be very consistent in our application. It's almost like, to me, when we were taking math tests when we were in elementary school, and sometimes you had to answer like 100 math questions. And, yeah, you might make one mistake, but you know how to do math. So it's 9 + 3 and 8 - 2, and you're just cruising. It's very similar. It's the same process, just applied to different parts of the body. Okay, but we got to get that process down before we do go to other places where it's more complicated. And it's more complex. It's mostly illusions. It's pesky illusions. So on Moodle, I really tried my best to give you all the resources you need. I have lectures on 310 stuff. I even posted old 310 lectures if you wanted to go back or had to go back for that. Old 310 materials. And then obviously the new stuff. Okay? And then I post all of the different in-person lectures we've had so far. There's your first exam. Just as a reminder, no cell phones for your exam. I'm not saying don't bring your cell phone to class, put in your book sack, but in terms of taking your test tablets or laptops. You can't take your test on yourself. All right, with that being said, you guys lead the review. In other words, we'll talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. Clarifications, conversations. Can you please explain this again? Can you please go over this again? I ask that you don't specifically say, can you do some more practice? I didn't come in here with a mindset of, unless you have a specific example. Does that make sense? Like if you say a specific example, no problem. But my mindset here is let's answer specific questions that you have. Because I spent 3 weeks coming up with practice, and there's only so many things I can come up with. I'm kind of out of imagination. Yes, ma'am.
Can we go over the first class and everything?
Absolutely. So levers basically are cheat codes. They're ways we can get certain advantages of simple machines. So with a lever, any kind of lever, you're going to have two different forces, and they're going to be on either side of an axis. It's important we define what those forces are. For us, just force, and there's a lot of forces. For us, this is going to be our muscles. This is going to be how our muscle is pulling on the bone. Our axis is going to be, or fulcrum, I just like axis, but axis is going to be our joint axis. Right? The point about which rotation occurs about. And then the R is going to be the resistance. The load, or what gravity is trying to do to us, okay? So this sets up very similar to 310, just with more context. In 310, we'd say, what's gravity trying to make you do? What is the resistance trying to do to your joint? What motion? How is it trying to make the teeter-totter move? And we had words for those. You know, is it trying to flex you? Is it trying to abduct you? But at the end of the day, it's all about just how is it trying to make the teeter-totter move? And then how is your muscles working against it, or how would your muscles be helping to influence it? The neck is pretty cool because if you look at the levers and pulleys PDF, and you scroll to page 4. So basically, what you see is a typical teeter-totter, but the axis, your cervical vertebra, if we're looking at it from the side, so this would be a bilateral axis, right? And there's your base of your skull. And then you have much more, I'm going to put a little nose right there, you have much more stuff and on this side of your teeter-totter axis than in the back, right? A lot more stuff. So the first class nature of levers is when the two different forces, the external and the internal, your muscles on the inside of your skin and gravity or the exercise on the outside of your skin. And the axis is somewhere in the middle of those two. That's when we get first class. And one of the advantages of a first class, in this case the neck, would be to balance. Because the fact that my muscle has to maintain constant tension means just a little bit more pull and it's going to tip the scale this way. Just a little bit less pull and it's going to tip the scale that way. We actually want our muscles to stay tense so that there's no lag, there's no delay. It's ready if I have to move my head or to keep my eyes level to process data. It's a good system. So one of the functions of a first-class leverage system is when your muscles are being used to balance. In this case, our eyes. We want to keep our eyes. We're going to see some other first-class systems. Like I think I mentioned in class, like if you're balancing on one foot, you want your inverters and everters to work as a first class about your subtalar to help balance you. There's other systems we're going to talk about, but I think this is just a good one to, and you want to keep your eyes level. It's hard to process when your eyes are not level. So regardless of what our body is trying to do, we want to constantly like a level, literally like a bubble. Right? We want to keep our eyes level so that we could process data. Another function of a simple machine is change the application of an applied force, direction of an applied force. Meaning that in a first-class leverage system, when my muscles are on one side and distance is on the other and the axis is here, I can make the right side go up by moving the back side. Extremely useful. When I look up, it's not because I literally had a muscle yank my head up. When I look up, it's because something in the back of my head pulled the base of my skull down. Practically speaking, you guys know, like if you're doing, straight leg raises, or what's the good mornings, or like when you do that, your hamstrings brought you up, this part up, and yanking your pelvis down. First class, that's a function of a first class system. Like I can make certain parts of my body come up by moving other parts of my body down. Pretty cool, pretty useful. So in the past, I used to try to do like all the levers first, second, thirds, and it was just too much. It was too confusing. So I was like, well, why don't we just emphasize certain leverage? So I'm still giving you some biomechanics, but we're doing it as we go through the joints so that there's more applicable meaning. Does that make sense? That's kind of cool, huh? Like that you look up because something in the back of your head yanked down. It's kind of neat. That's a function of the first class. Great question. All right, guys, we broke the ice, so it all should be easy from now on. You've ever heard that phrase before? Icebreakers. That's when you go to a meeting and they're like, all right, guys, we're going to do an icebreaker. And everybody's like, wow.
Can we say like, what would be like an illusion of a transverse rotation session? Something that we could see potentially.
So this question is specifically about motion. Okay, so let's use the 4 types of motion. 2 of them are super easy, 2 of them are hard. It looks like it's moving, and it is. All day. One that's even better than that, it looks like it's not moving, and it's not. Those are my favorite. Okay. And then we get to the 2 hard ones. It looks like it's moving, but it's not. This is a problem when you learn motions by global references. Well, when you look to your right, it's right transverse cervical rotation. Makes sense? It looks like it's moving, but I didn't move my neck. I could be in a halo and not be able to move my neck, but still do this. Landmarks didn't change. I'm no more looking at my right shoulder than my left. And it looks like it's moving and it's not. And then the other one is, it looks like it's not moving, but it is. And that's this one. So those are, no matter how you slice it and dice it, the human body looks like it's moving and it is, looks like it's not moving and it's not, looks like it's moving but it's not, or it looks like it's not moving and it is. It's one of those 4. And that's why we want to use local landmarks, not room landmarks. Room landmarks are going to mess with us. Local landmarks, always going to be right. And that's why I don't use things like angles. Because in the transverse plane especially, like what am I going to use as my reference system? This is 0, this is 90, this is 0, this is negative 90. So we just use landmarks, chin to chest. If my chin is facing more towards my right shoulder, I had to twist my neck to the right, regardless of if I do this or if I do this. So we use landmarks to make it easier to see these changes in position, which by definition means motion. And then if you want to break it, you just lower it down. So we did chin to chest or chin to sternum or nose to sternum, whatever language we use. For the trunk, it's just sternum to pubis. So if these two stay lined up, I didn't have any trunk rotation. If my sternum is looking more at my left hip, I had to twist to my left. And if my sternum is looking more at my right hip, I had to twist to the right. Whether or not sternum moved or the hip moved. Lined up, looking more at the right, I had to twist my trunk to the right to get there. Really good question. Did I answer it to your, because sometimes I don't catch what the intent of the question is, so that's why I always ask for a follow-up. Did I answer the question? I might have taken you east and you meant for me to go west. Good stuff. So I think, forgive me for going here, but I just want to make sure, I would never ask you about, what a great question. Yeah. Internal question. I would never ask you about specific trunk muscles on this test, but 100%, if I could spell it right, dyslexic problems. 100%, we talked about how I could totally ask this question. Like, what's the agonist at the trunk, the group of muscles? How are the muscles pulling in order to maintain that position? We went through that. 100% fair question. And it's important you be able to answer this now, because once we go into the specific muscles, if we can't look at this and say, oh, I need left transverse trunk rotators, if we can't get there, what difference does it make if you know what those muscles are? If we can't identify the muscles based off of their pull, then it doesn't matter if you know what those muscles are. That's the most important part. The easy part is who are those muscles. But if we can't get figuring out who do I need because I see why I need them, then knowing a bunch of muscles doesn't matter. And that's when we default to shoulders and core and back and traps. We're just playing fast and loose. And people play fast and loose most of the time with core because they don't know. And they don't know because they've never had someone teach them. And that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here, is to try to teach you specifically what muscles are working, because we see why we need them. So that you don't have to say, hey, what muscles am I working when I do this exercise? Oh, you're working the core. There's going to be some MRIs that come back and say, don't work left internal oblique until we establish that. You got to know what exercises to avoid. Contraindications. There's going to be some indications for specific muscles. We need to know how those work, what exercises recruit. So that's why we have to know more than just core. Yeah. I'm going to walk you through this one more time for old time's sake. Gravity is trying to do what? Now listen to me. Listen to me. There's a difference between pelvic girdle rotation and trunk rotation, right? So gravity in that picture on the top right is trying to twist the pelvis to the left. But in doing so, it's trying to twist his trunk to the right. Does everybody understand that? Gravity's trying to make his sternum look more at his right hip. If gravity is trying to twist his trunk to his right, he doesn't need muscles that would also be trying to twist his trunk to the right. He would need muscles that are trying to twist his trunk to the left. We have a name for those, left transverse trunk rotators. I'm going to teach you who those muscles are. Right external oblique, left internal oblique, left erector spinae. Process, steps. Three-tenths stuff. Now, obviously not all the questions on this test are going to be like this. That's probably one of the harder questions. So in other words, if you can get that one right, you're doing well. Some of them will be like this. Oh gosh, I know I don't like this word, but Google likes it. Who remembers why I don't like the word leg extension machine? First of all, what joint is a leg? And you flex just as much as you extend. So the problem is it embeds in our heads, this motion must be by quads. Extension must be by quads. And I'm not saying it can't be, but it's not all the way, all the time. If you're doing hamstring curls, you could have extension because of flex. You have flexors, right? So just as a reminder, why we don't like to use specific motions with specific muscles unless there's context of them, right? So this should be a question that y'all should be able to answer all day. And we have a process for it. We don't assume. Your instinct may be like, ring the bell, salivate, quads. All right, I don't play that game. What's the machine trying to do to me? It's trying to flex my knees. I don't need knee flexors, I need knee extensors. We're going to talk about who are those muscles. We're going to talk about the vastus medialis, lateralis, intermedius, rectus femoris, but we're going to talk more about, we're going to go into even cooler depths with those specific muscles. It's going to be fun, it's going to be cool. But I need you guys to be able to say, I'm working extension pullers because the machine's trying to flexion me. The machine's trying to flex me, so I need muscles that are trying to extend me to go against it, right? To resist against it. The part that I'm trying to teach in my own unique spectrum way is taking physics, concept physics, and applying it to biology and saying it's impossible for extension pullers to not do the extension through concentrics. It has to be. There's no exception. When those muscles are doing the job and they're pulling in the direction of extension, if I see extension, there's no other way that those muscles did that work without concentric. It's an it. It's math. If those muscles are doing a job and I see flexion, not all the time flexion, in this scenario flexion, the only way extension pullers can allow the flexion is through eccentrics. Guys, that's important for your careers. There's going to be instances in rehab where you don't want to do eccentric loading. You have to know what that looks like. There's going to be phases in rehab where you do want to do eccentrics. You need to know what that looks like. The story within the story is where your application is going to help a lot of people. So we need to be able to identify those pieces. Okay. So on the test, if I say, on the test, the question is going to look like this. I won't have vastus lateralis and medialis, rectus femoris. I'll just have knee extent from left to right, knee extensors through concentric, knee extensors through eccentric. Knee flexors through concentric, knee flexors through eccentric. We should be able to answer. Then we'll learn who those muscles are when we cover the knee. One of the reasons we don't want to assume this is sometimes these machines may look like this. They may not look traditional. What I mean by that is you may be in the exact same position as an exercise that would work your quads, but you're not working your quads. Because in this case, the machine isn't trying to push you down, it's trying to push you up. The padding is trying to push on the back of your leg. The machine's trying to extend your knees. I can't tell you how many times I've asked this question and people just assume that it was quads. Does that make sense? So in this exercise, I'd be working knee flexion pullers. But you know what? I need to get out of the habit of saying hamstrings. Campbell, why wouldn't you just say hamstrings? Well, that's okay for some people to say that don't have undergraduate degrees in kinesiology, but we need to know semimembranosus, semitendinosus. We need to know the biceps femoris. We need to know the popliteus. We need to know the gastrocnemius. We need to know the sartorius. We need to know the gracilis. Because any one of those muscles could be hurt. Any one of those muscles could have neural problems that need looking into. Any one of those muscles can need rehabilitation. But we need to know what all those muscles do. And when I say do, how do they pull? Because how muscles pull can give me a lot of information. How would I need to stretch it? Sartorius doesn't scream, how do I need to position myself to lengthen it? But if I say, oh, the sartorius is a hip flexion puller, immediately that tells me I need to extend it if I want to lengthen it. And if I say the sartorius is a knee flexion puller, that immediately tells me I need to have the knee extended if I want to lengthen it. That gives me information. How does it pull? Tells me a lot. But remember, a lot of these muscles are named because of Latin. Soleus is named from solefish, which is basically a flounder. It doesn't tell me how it pulls. We have to remind ourselves how they pull. Okay. I feel I'm taking over this class now. Back to you guys. Questions? Or it could even be like with motion. Is there any motions from 310 that you're like, I don't remember this or that? Because I'm not going to ask you like specific motion questions. It's all going to be this motion contraction stuff, right? But if I had I think we did this in class. I need you to know the difference between pronation and supination. One at a time, guys. One at a time. Absolutely. So how many types of contractions do we have? 3, right? Shortening while trying to shorten, concentric, being lengthened while trying to shorten, eccentric, and no change in motion while trying to shorten, isometric. Isometric's lovely because isometric, same length. Concentric is inferred with a concentric circle where you're bringing a point back to the other point. So concentric literally means I'm bringing 2 points together. And my favorite is eccentric because eccentric means weird. Something's eccentric or eccentric. It's not what you're expecting. So to have 2 points want to be brought together, but actually be allowed to get further apart is weird. Okay. So plyometrics, notice the plural. It's not plyometric, it's plyometrics, is a specific sequence of contractions. The eccentric, being lengthened while trying to shorten. When you're slowing down motion in the opposite direction of the agonist pull, and then you change direction and you actually create motion in the same direction. That's the only sequence that can happen with things that pull. That's it. A couple of practical examples is okay, so this jump rope can only pull. I can't push the cart, right? It's like muscles. Muscles can't push. You're like, what do you mean? I can push. Your hand can push because things are pulling at the shoulder and the elbow. Okay. The only thing this jump rope can do is pull. And so what I mean by that is once I create motion, please don't turn over, please don't turn over. Let's lower that center of mass. Once I create motion to me, I need friction to stop the cart. I can't push it to a stop. However, if the cart was to be moving away from me, I can 100% pull on this rope in my direction to slow it down as it moves away, change its direction, and speed it up coming to. That's plyometrics. when you, or to put it another way, when you change the direction of an exercise because your muscles change the direction of an exercise, that's plyometrics. So in this exercise of the leg extensors, and it just dawned on me that I didn't show pictures, so I'm going to go back and show all the pictures we talked about. There's only one area where there's the plyometric sequence, and that's when you slow down the flexion, change your direction, and speed up the extension. Now, why is that important? Because, guys, that's when your muscles are going to experience the most load. That's when they're going to be stressed the most. Not all muscles are stressed in the entire range of motion the same. So being able to identify the plyometric sequence of things is important. It's the transition between eccentric and concentric. There's a few ways to logically think through this. Going up, then coming down would be concentric followed by eccentric. Plyometrics is eccentric followed by concentric, and I explained the whys, right? So in other words, where would eccentrics end and concentrics begin? That's another way to look at it. My eccentric would end right at the end of the flexion, and my concentric begin right at the beginning of the eccentric. It's another logical way to identify where the load on the muscle will be the greatest. Okay, while we're here, let me pull up the windshield wiper exercise just to give some context. We'll be watching this later. Yoink. So we did this one. Guys, if you came up to me and said, I'll give you $100 if you tell me the muscles in this exercise in 5 seconds, I'd be like, keep your money. I don't have it memorized. But we can figure it out. Gravity is trying to twist the pelvis to the left, but in doing so, it's trying to twist the trunk to the right. I know that if I'm trying to hold that position, I don't need muscles that are also trying to twist my trunk to the right. I need muscles that are trying to twist my trunk to its left. Once I establish that, then I could say, well, who are the muscles that are pulling my trunk to the left? I'm going to teach you how to see those. Okay. If I come up, it's going to be concentrics. And we could verbalize it. If I bring the legs up, well, I'm using left transverse trunk rotators and I'm observing left transverse trunk rotation. That's the only way I could get my trunk to be twisted to my right to go back to anatomical is to have left transverse trunk rotation. As the pelvis spins to the right, my trunk has to spin to the left. That's another way of saying the same thing. Did I answer that question? Yay. Keep them coming, guys. Touchdown. Let me ask you this. Not that this is a test question, I think this is going to help our confidence. What can the ankle do? How can it move? How many different ways can it move? So don't confuse subtalar for ankle. Remember that? Don't confuse the wobble for the wheel. The ankle can move 2 ways, plantar and dorsal. Therefore, we have to have strings. We have to have muscles that pull in both directions of motion. We're going to call those dorsiflexors and plantar flexors. I'm going to teach you who those muscles are. The wobble, the subtalar, has inversion and eversion. I'm going to have inversion pullers and eversion pullers. I'm going to teach you who those muscles are. The knee has flexors and extensors. I'm going to teach you who those muscles are. When the knee's bent, I could have internal and external rotators. I'm going to teach you who those muscles are. The hip has flexors and extensors and adductors and internal and external rotators. I'm going to teach you those muscles. More important, in my opinion, than learning who those muscles are is learning the story behind what those muscles do. That's useful. That's stuff we can use. That's techniques we can use in the kitchen. Anything else? Grace, did y'all have a review scheduled?
Yes, our review will be Tuesday at 5.
Tuesday at 5. Tuesday at 5. Right at Top Golf.
For sure. It should be in this room. Well, actually, I think there will be maybe meeting going on in this room, but I'll let y'all know through the review.
Anything else? Last call, last call. Absolutely. Let me mix it up. So if I asked agonist and contraction, if you observe this, I don't expect you to, I mean, you might too, that's cool, but I don't expect anybody to be able to just regurgitate an answer right away. You have a process. Gravity is trying to pronate my radial ulnar joint. I need muscles that are trying to supinate my radial ulnar joint. I call those muscles the supinators. I'm going to teach you who they are. I'm going to teach you about the biceps brachii. And guys, we literally have a muscle, I kid you negative, called the supinator. Love those guys. Supinators are working because gravity is trying to pronate. So if I observe pronation, the only way the supination pullers are going to allow that pronation is through eccentrics. When I bring it back up, supinators do supination through concentrics. And then the unit 2 and unit 3 is going to be who are the supinators, who are the pronators, who are the flexors, who are the extensors, who are the ulnar deviators, who are the radial deviators.
I remember like something like just looked at it sounds like this name.
Yeah, a lot of those illusions though aren't because of muscles. Like what I mean by that is if I do the upright row and I have supination as I come up, literally that supination is happening naturally as my shoulder muscles and scapular muscles in order to keep my fingers under the bar. So it's almost kind of like the wheels of the skateboard are rolling because I'm pushing on the ground, not because I'm literally pulling on the wheels. So if I were to ask like a radial ulnar joint kind of question, you would be very structured to something is trying to do this, something's trying to do that. It wouldn't be one of those where like it's moving to help keep my grip under something. But 100%, there are some radial ulnar joint illusions. But it's usually to just help our functional grip on stuff. But if I asked a radial ulnar joint agonist question, it'd be very correct. Very correct. Good clarification. All right, guys, we're good. All right, y'all have a good day.